Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks! What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I've got another interesting knife review slash knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Spyderco Emphasis. This is a very inexpensive Spyderco. We're going to talk about the price. But I am going to link this guy right down below. It is very interesting. I've got a lot to say about it. But if you want to check this knife out, I'll link it down below along with Spyderco knives in general so you can see, what else they've got going on. Thanks so much to my generous patrons who are supporting me right now. There's a link for Patreon right down below. And please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. Let's go ahead and get a measurement of this guy. Overall length of the Spyderco Emphasis. This is in the emphasis and the persistence and that there's a family, right? There's a papa bear, there's a mama bear, and there's a baby bear, right? The Spyderco does this sometimes. So if you don't like the size of this and you like the price, well, they make a smaller one. They make two smaller ones. Overall length of this guy is coming in at about 8¼ inches. That's great. That's the size of knife that I generally like to carry. 3.6 inches or so on the blade, and then we're looking at about just shy of 3¼ on the cutting edge. Let's go ahead and do some size comparisons up against the Ontario Rat Model 1 and Rat Model 2. You can see here, because of the angle, it looks to be the same as the Rat. The Rat's a little bit longer, right? But definitely still a big knife. I think a really good size comparison might be the Spyderco Shaman. Let's put it up against the Spyderco Shaman real quick here before we actually talk about, So, I know the Spyderco Shaman's hard to get right now, but the Shaman is almost exactly the same. This is weird. Let me measure this again. I'm in an angle too, but I'm going to make sure here. 8¼ and just about 8¼ This one might be just 1/8 of an inch shy, but they're about the same. Very similar in blade profile and also similar in feeling of robustness, except for the Shaman still has a thicker blade stock, but thickness between the two knives is similar. I'm not saying that this is a budget alternative to the Shaman. There are just some elements of it that give me Shaman-y vibes. How about up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3? PM2 is just a little bit longer. Again, the angle of the camera throwing things off. But I think we're kind of getting the picture here. We'll do one more size comparison. Ritter Hogue. And the mini group, I'm sorry, the bench made group cylinder, in this case, the Ritter Hogue. I know people freak out if I don't say it. So there you go. Big knife, right? Not a huge knife, but definitely a knife with a lot of presence. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Even though we just did the Spyderco Shaman, we'll put it up against the Spyderco Para 3. And you can see here, it's really not all that thick. It's heavy, and there's a lot of knife here, but it's not super duper thick. Let me go ahead and give you guys a look at the inside. You can absolutely get my flashlight right down in the description. The inside of this, sorry, I bumped the camera, it has actually been milled out a little bit for weight reduction, which is great. I can only imagine how heavy it would be if it wasn't milled out. So that's nice. How about blade stock thickness? Thickness on this guy, it doesn't look to be incredibly thick. I'm going to guess that's about 125 thousandths or so. Maybe less. Yeah, less than that. 113 thousandths. Not thick at all. Let's go ahead and weigh it real quick. We're looking at G10 and steel. I'm going to guess this weighs 4.5 to 5 ounces. More, 5.08 ounces. It's a heavy boy. It's got the full lipped steel liners. So if you like that feeling, this isn't a problem for me, but it's absolutely a problem for some people. The balance on this knife is nowhere near the pivots. In fact, there's where it's balanced, right here. So the balance is definitely back here. For some people, that'll bother you. For some people, it won't. You don't care, right? I care a little bit, not too much. My Shamans are all, not balanced because I added, one of them's got titanium, right? Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. You can absolutely get my tools down in the description. They are listed now. I believe this thing is entirely whoops, I grabbed a T7. I think this thing is entirely T8. So there's your deal right there. Okay, the pivot is a T8, and the body screws are all, including the pocket clip, these are all T8. So that's great. Spyderco screws have a tendency to strip, so just make sure you've got something that's high quality and make sure you're being careful, and you should be okay. Have we touched on everything? Did we go through? I think we did. Oh, did we do? No, we didn't do carry profile this way. Did I do this? Length and height up against the PM2 and Para 3. It's not super tall. You can see here that the bump on the PM2 and Para 3 is much taller, right? This is just going to be a large, heavy object. It's not thick, it just, you know, it weighs a lot. It's similar to the Shaman in weight, right? It's a big knife. All right, so what are we running on here? This, as per usual, I believe is, well, it looks to be all phosphor bronze. In fact, he told me I could do a teardown, so why don't we just go ahead and, let's go ahead and do that, see if we can do it, just to check. It might actually be all phosphor bronze, and I thought, well, I'm not going to check because usually knives like this are, you know, like the less expensive Spydercos are a combination of nylon and phosphor bronze, so that's kind of what I thought, and that's what it felt like on the inside. But you know what, this shouldn't be that difficult to take apart, despite the fact that it has a lanyard thingy on it. I think I'll be able to pull these screws out, and then the screws are interesting. They're actually a little bit thicker than some of the Spyderco screws. I mean, on the head, they're not that sort of funnel shape, right? But I should be able to sort of scissor this screw out. I know people, he said it's gonna scissor it. Yeah. But I should be able to get that out and just sort of move it so we can take a look at what's actually in the pivot. And then we'll have to put it back together, which I may or may not cut. Is this screw gonna come out? It sure doesn't, it doesn't seem like it wants to. Can we lift this? It's coming off the lanyard barrel just fine. I don't normally do this when I do. Can I get the magnet and just pull that thing out? No, that screw just doesn't want to come out of there. Well, that's kind of stinky. Why doesn't it want to come out? Okay, so on the inside here, it's one phosphor bronze washer. I can see it. And then on the other side, looks like a phosphor bronze washer. Okay, so from what I'm seeing here, it looks like it's phosphor bronze on both sides. The reason I am not going to proceed with this is because I can't get that little screw out right there, which is kind of, you know, I'm kind of glad that I did this because I'm not sure what lip is holding that little screw in. Now, obviously the easiest way to get that out is to lift up on the scale while you're pulling or while you're, you know, continuing to unscrew it, so that there's pressure on the screw and it'll get it, you know, to release. If there's, you know, the thread's getting stuck on some stupid lip or something like that, you can just lift up on the scale to put pressure on the underside of the head and then continue to turn it, and it should back it out. But that's kind of annoying. It should continue to back out no matter what. This was a little bit easier. I mean, like, honestly, the screws are more durable than I thought they were going to be. Sometimes those, you know, those funnel-shaped screws that Spyderco uses, like on the PM2 and Para 3 or the Manix, I have stripped those before on more than one occasion, right? Let's make sure our action is back where we want it to be. It's a little bit tight. So there you go. You got a partial disassembly from me because I wanted to make sure and get it. But it looks like, there we go. It looks like it's running on phosphor bronze, which is great. I honestly thought it was going to be running on nylon and phosphor bronze. Okay, so anyways, Spyderco Emphasis. We're looking at G10, the wire clip, which is currently mounted for left-handed carry, even though this is a right-handed liner lock, absolutely. But it can be mounted to the other side. You're just going to go through possibly a little bit of frustration there. This is a Chinese Spyderco. It's definitely amongst the least expensive Spydercos that are out there, which makes it great for people who are wanting to get into Spyderco, but not wanting to spend Spyderco Para 3 or PM2 prices, right? These are now $140, $150 and can be scarce and kind of intimidating, right? And they're also super weird looking. So why spend that when you can spend what this guy is, which is $57? Is that good or bad? We're going to talk about that here in a sec. The G10 looks great. It's kind of a mild peel ply texture, what you can expect from Spyderco. Ergonomics are good in places like choked up when the blade is deployed right here. This is nice. Everything is actually really comfortable right here. Even if the wire clip is mounted on the other side, I'd be able to feel it, but it's the wire clip. And what I mean by that is it's rounded off. So even though you can feel it, there's just not much pressure there, so it's no big deal. I love that they have this massive cutout for the liner lock. It doesn't look beautiful, but it makes it really easy to disengage. It's reasonably smooth. It's about what I'd expect, you know, for honestly, I thought it was nylon in there, so it's kind of neat that it's phosphor bronze. you can do the reverse flick because of this big shelf right here. Sorry, I wasn't on camera. On either side, you're going to kind of run into it when you flick it out, right? Kind of. You just need to go more that way. It's kind of annoying, right? But if you choked back, that's kind of a stabilizing position, I guess. I'm not sure that it needed to be so prominent. I think this whole area in here could be way less like, you know, it's if this is the eyeball and this is the mouth, it's like, oh, that's what it looks like. It's like someone's yelling, you know, maybe he could just have a less enthusiastic or less excited facial expression, right? Now you wouldn't have nearly as much access to the hole. Giggity. But, yeah, this, it's okay. I just need, I just want to be able to deploy it without running into this shelf. So it's all right. If you're just going to wheel it out, like most of the time, you're just going to open it like that, it's fine. And honestly, disengaging it, engaging it this way is really, really easy. And the detent's good. So when you want to go and do the reverse flick, you can do it. You're just going to have to adjust to this thing over time, which people will do. It's just kind of obnoxious to run into that shelf. Fit and finish all the way around is all right. There's little things that you can expect from Spyderco's China line, like the backspacer not being perfectly flush in all areas, but you know, the scales look like they're meeting up with the steel liners okay. The blade, surprisingly, is almost centered. I imagine you could get it centered by messing with the pocket clip screws and the pivot screw like I demonstrate in a video on how to center your blade, but whatever. Something else I want to talk about is the satin finish on these things, and I should have brought this up on the Tenacious because it's the same thing. The satin finish on these guys is kind of meh, you know. We've seen satin finished blades from Civivi and CJRB that just make this not look super great. It's okay. It's just, it's all right. I mean, it looks like a satin finish from a long time ago, and this knife has been produced for a long time, you know. It's decent enough. It's just not incredible. The bevels, the final cutting bevels are a bit wonky, right? You're going to see variations in, you know, how wide it is from the tip all the way down to where, you know, it ends right here. There's a little bit of a goofball area right here. Same way on the other side. It's just not perfectly straight. It used to be that that was just what you could expect with a budget knife until Civivi came along and proved everybody wrong, that they could get everything almost exactly right almost all of the time. So this is just, you know, it's kind of obnoxious. Now, the blade profile itself, I think is great. It's Spyderco's leaf-shaped blade. It's fully flat ground. It's absolutely going to be a workhorse. What's the blade steel? It's ATR 13 MOV, just like you'd expect. I hope we're starting to see, hopefully, the end of this ATR. I mean, maybe not. Maybe these knives will be around for another 2 years. But ATR 13 MOV is not anything special. I remember like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was like, oh, well, you know, it's a budget steel. If it's under 50 bucks, you know, I don't know that I care that much. But now seeing what we can get for 50 bucks, no. AR RPM 9, you know, we're seeing in some cases like N690 and, which N690 is not fantastic either. D2 easily better than HCR, right? We're even seeing steels like 154 CM drop down to the $70 territory. That's going to be enough for some people to go, what, for 15 bucks and more, I can get a knife in, you know, 154. Well, then yeah. So the appeal to HCR is becoming less and less and less. Now, the only thing that saves this is the geometry. Remember, geometry plays a huge role in how utilitarian something is going to be. So while the steel isn't anything fantastic, the geometry is very good. I like this geometry for a workhorse of a blade. Other than that, it's a Spyderco blade, right? Jimping's in the right place. The tip, you're going to be able to poke and breach with it, but I wouldn't go prying with it, right? So there you go. Moving on here, you've got the wire clip, which is great. There is, for whatever reason, a screw being prioritized over the clip, which is funny because the lanyard hole is not being prioritized. It's fine. It still carries pretty darn deep. Backspacer looks neat. It's kind of in excess. I don't think that if they didn't do a backspacer and they just did standoffs, the balance would be much better. That backspacer is probably pretty heavy, so that's kind of weird. And it would shave some weight off there. You know, it would just make it preferable for more people. This side's much the same as the front. And by the way, that screw doesn't seem to be free spinning. Locking up at something like 50%. It is absolutely solid, so that's good. And like I said, it's close to centered. How much is this knife? It's $56. This is one of Spyderco's best entry-level knives. I like it, especially if you like large knives. I hate that it's HCR. If this was D2, I'd be like, it's got some weird fit and finish elements, but hey, it's a D2 Spyderco. For 56 bucks, go for it. The HCR really turns me off to this. The HCR bothers me so much, it makes me want to say, you know, this knife should be like 35 bucks. And even then, I'd say, no, just spend more money and get something else. If you're looking to get into Spyderco, and you don't want to spend that extra money, that's when you want to pick something like this up. So you can experience kind of what a Spyderco's like without having to spend so much money. If you're anybody else looking for a good pocket knife in this price range, there's a million other choices that are better, right? This has balancing issues. It's big. It's got an awkward area to deploy it. It's got a subpar satin finish on the blade. The cutting bevels are all over the place, right? And the centering's off, and it's using HCR steel. Will this work for the vast majority of people? Oh yeah, if you buy this and you're expecting it to function as a tool for years, yeah, of course it will. But I'm a reviewer. I have to tell you when I think you guys are better off, you know, with some other things out there. So consider your position. If you're trying to get into Spyderco knives, yeah, start with this, the Tenacious, right? Something like that. There's a bunch of choices in Spyderco's inexpensive line. But for other people just looking for a competitive budget knife, no. There's a lot of other stuff. $57 is it's not a lot of money, but it's too much for this. And you know, this is me being more harsh than I normally am because I love Spyderco knives. But no, you know, Spyderco needs to do something different with their less expensive end. Change of steel would go a long ways. There's a lot of stuff that I could choke down because Spyderco makes such good designs, and I love the opening hole, right? A lot of stuff I could choke down if they just change the steel. But that's honestly where I stand on this. So there you go. This will be going in my Spyderco knives playlist, which you're welcome to check out. Like I said, this knife will be listed right down below if you guys want to take a look at it. Anyways, thank you so much to the gentleman who sent this to me, by the way. That was Dustin. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.